this is a video that has caught my eye, so to speak. In a nutshell, it's just talking about how indie games are just simply better than AAA. And you know what? I agree with that. Indie games in most circumstances have been very, very much better than AAA games. There's some rare occasions, you know, you got like Black Myth Wukong, Baldur's Gate 3, you know, stuff like that. Those are AAA games, and they're absolutely amazing. They really smashed it out of the park with that. But most AAA games nowadays have been utter garbage. And you know what? The fact that indie games have much better quality than these AAA games now, well, you know, it's an amazing feat and should be celebrated that indie games can go so far. It's very telling on the large downfall that these AAA studios have. So, we're not going to waste too much time here. Let's get right into this video. If you've enjoyed it, please do leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get on with the video. Anywho, next video. I'm gonna reload this.
I play indie.
Okay. Now then, I'm not gonna lie. He changed the title of this. The title used to be why indie games are feel much better than AAA. And honestly, I'm not gonna lie. My two cents in opinion about this is that indie has infinitely more passion than the AAA scene now. Because like Hollow Knight is the best example of this. Silksong is the best example of this. Silksong is coming out next month. September 4th, or was it November 4th? Hold on. Hollow Knight Silksong release. September 4th. Yeah, it's coming out next month on the 4th. And I think it's the #1 most wishlisted game in the entire world on Steam. Like globally on Steam, most wishlisted game. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm really looking forward to this game coming out. And I should honestly replay Hollow Knight. I should replay Hollow Knight just to get my skills back into the game, just to get into that mood. I should just restream it too. It'll be nice. It'll be fun. You know, we get to play as the little bug guy. Who doesn't want to play as the little bug guy? But yeah, I do feel like it's probably a bit more of a passion for indie games and whatnot than AAA, because a lot of see, okay, bye Hoyle, because like a lot of the AAA games, or the AAA studios themselves, they're boggled down by trying to please investors. They're in it for profit over quality. That's it. That's all it is. They're in it for profit over quality. So to me, like, you could definitely get the profit if you just increase the quality of games, but they don't want to. They want to take the cheapest route to get the most money. That's all it is in my book. But we'll see what this guy has to say about it.
I play indie games at a near 10-to-1 ratio now, and I never feel exhausted.
That's
if
fair.
I play a AAA game from start to finish, I feel like I need to take a vacation afterwards. It feels like the biggest games in the industry continue to get bigger and offer us more, while we continue to get less out of them. I'll play a game that I like, and then years later there will be a sequel, and the reason that I love the game is now buried under a bunch of useless garbage that's just there to make the game look better rather than actually be any better.
I'm trying to think, when was the last time I've played a AAA? A AAA game. Hold on. Let me look at my Steam here. Let me take a look see my Steam library. Is Warframe AAA? I play a lot of Warframe and I fucking love it. I don't know if Warframe's AAA. If it is, then you know Warframe. Terraria's indie. Been playing a lot of Terraria. Been doing the modded thing. Stellar Blade. I want to say Stellar Blade's AAA. Possibly. I outright stopped playing Monster Hunter Wilds. I am only put in 6 hours in Monster Hunter Wilds because it's so unoptimized and I hate it so much. World is so much better, man. In terms of optimization, World is so much better, and I love Monster Hunter World. No, I think the vast majority of games that I play is actually just indie. Because I've been doing Terraria. I've been thinking about playing Factorio again. I also have an itch for a Dyson Sphere program. Yeah, Repo, Schedule 1. Yeah, no, the vast majority of the games that I play are indie games, not even AAA. Yeah, no, this guy's yeah, this is we're on to something here, man. Indie games are just so much better. And you know what? Props for the indie sphere for that. I couldn't be happier about how amazing about the amount of amazing indie games that come out. You know, those are awesome. So I couldn't be better. And you know what? Competition needs to be had in order for the I hope AAA one day wakes up and realizes that, oh, customers are leaving us for these small independent studios. But let's be honest, they're absolutely delusional, because like Microsoft, they every studio that they've bought, they just like completely ruined. Every golden egg that they have purchased, they just crushed it and stomped it until it became scrambled eggs, and they ate it, and it's gone now.
And this is something that we've seen play out across the entire industry, especially when it comes to major franchises.
Yeah.
Adding in a bunch of useless stuff that just does not need to be there, whether that's open worlds or RPG mechanics, non-narrative games now becoming just flooded with dialogue, useless games.
I like open world games. I like them a lot, but I think the problem is that they don't have enough time to get them optimized completely. That, and I think the way how like Starfield is a great example of this. Starfield, I don't even see it as an open world, man. You're doing nothing more than just jumping from fishbowl to fishbowl, and there's 20 loading screens between each fishbowl. That's bad, man. That's so bad. But then there's also stuff like Call of Duty, like when Black Ops 6 was like, we got the Omni movement. I'm sitting here thinking like, okay, Omni movement. It's cool. That's not a feature. You just refined your movement system. That's it. We can grab people now, okay? You can grab people now. Realistically, how many people have used that mechanic of grabbing people and using them as a shield in like multiplayer or battle royale? Probably barely anybody, if I'm being honest. At least from the clips that I've seen, barely anybody. And then you have Battlefield 6 actually looking pretty dope, but then EA coming out and be like, we want to release it year by year, like how Call of Duty's doing it. And it's like, Call of Duty is doing very badly right now, and you want to copy them? It's like copying homie's test, and that's like copying homie's test, and you know dang well that he has a D- in that class, and you're copying off him. Okay, good luck with that one.
Game modes, battle royales, whatever it might be. And all these things are there just to inflate playtime, because developers have gaslit themselves into believing that, well, the longer a game is, the more value that players get out of it. And also on top of that, it's really nice because it keeps you in the game longer and more likely to be able to buy microtransactions. But
I wouldn't solely blame developers. I would blame the executives, like the higher up executive. Because like I feel like there's a lot of developers that do have the passion and want to make something awesome. And the executives just say, no, you have to pump it out by this date or you're fired, and we'll replace you with somebody else who's probably worse than you. Because like I think whatchamacallit, the Batman Arkham games, you know, the Batman Arkham trilogy, those games are amazing. All the people that have worked on those games are gone. Most, if not all, are just gone. Completely either quit or got fired and replaced. And that's just sad, man. There's probably are some game developers out there that, you know, have a big head on their shoulders, you know, you're like, no, I work for a AAA company, I'm better than you guys. Me, I know what's up. You know, how like that one Starfield dev was like, you just don't get it. The when we did the moon landing, they had nothing to do when they're on the moon, and it's just like, yeah, but that's real life. It's exciting because it's a place we've never been before. It's real life. You're experiencing it literally. Oh boy, but I solely wouldn't blame it on the devs. I mostly blame higher up executives who literally don't know any better.
While it took a while, I think that that feeling of paying more for less, that general erosion of quality, that's the reason why so many people are frustrated today.
Yeah.
That's why you have angry gamers. But you know what gamers aren't angry at? Indie. They're the most widely celebrated games.
Indie's amazing right now, bro. They're going up and they're continuing to go up. Okay, Silk Song is going to launch indie titles through the fucking roof. I just feel it.
It feel a hell of a lot bigger than they actually are because they become the inversion of AAA.
They really
they
have.
Are offering more for less.
Mm-hmm.
What a value proposition.
Expedition 33, $45, and I think it's a 60-hour game. I want to play it. I really do. I'm struggling to find the time for myself. I'm very bad at time management, and if I'm being honest, I should just get a spreadsheet and put a schedule together for myself. But I'm lazy, so...
But I think it actually goes deeper than that. I think it's more about fulfillment and enjoyment. And that's what I want to talk about today. And I also want to talk about why I think indie is succeeding and why I think the reason for that is because they go deep instead of wide.
Yeah.
But before that, this video is sponsored by Boot.
That process in my mind. What do you mean deep instead of what do you mean by that, buddy? Huh? What are we talking about here? That's a sick ass display. Oh, I love Alucard so much. Oh, I shouldn't go on display. I shouldn't. Don't go on display. You'll buy a lot of things. All right, you don't have the wall space right now. I love display.
.dev, the best way and honestly the fastest way that I've found to be able to learn back-end development without getting bored or giving up halfway through. I've been testing it myself, and what really sets it apart is how it feels more like a game than a course. You're not just passively watching videos, you're writing real code from the very first lesson, building projects in Python and Go, and actually preparing yourself for the kind of back-end jobs that pay well over 6 figures in the US. Boot.dev solved the hardest problem with e-learning, boredom, by, well, just making the entire thing a game, giving you XP, levels, achievements, even quests, anything to be able to keep you engaged. And even if you do get stuck, well,
that's honestly pretty
AI
cool.
wizard bear named Boots that jumps in with some Socratic-style questions to kind of guide you towards the answers rather than just handing them to you. What I really love about their site and program is you can just create a free account, preview every single course, and read all of the content in guest mode. But if you want the real experience, the interactive coding, answer verification, progress tracking, and community boss fights, well, you want the membership. So if you're serious about learning back-end development the right way, go to boot.dev and use my code LegendaryDrops to get 25.
I'm not gonna lie, it does sound actually kind of cool. And like I've been thinking of time to times to get into like some small coding things. Mainly for Minecraft mod packs because I like to put those together, but I've been also wanting to look into like frameworks and whatnot, and the frameworks are like a very bare bones of a game engine. Like there's clear differences between a framework and a game engine, but like as an example of this, Terraria, it doesn't have a game engine. It uses a framework, and it's extremely bare bones. It's like a game engine with zero tools. You have to code in the tools yourself, and it's kind of nice. Because one, you can make it extremely optimized because you have to code everything yourself and whatnot. And two, if you game engines can be limited in some things, a framework cannot. You can just code it in for it to be able to do that essentially. So I kind of just wanted to poke my head into that a little bit, but that's would require a lot of my time. So
5% off your first entire
which
year
I don't have
on
right now. I can't
plan.
spare.
That's boot.dev, code LegendaryDrops. Link is in the description and the pinned comment. There is a laundry list of reasons as to why we've seen so much animosity towards a lot of games over the years, and I noticed that while I often talk about these issues, I never just grab a single part of the problem and just run it the length of the field. And in one of my recent videos, I
love the Hollow Knight art style.
The idea that too many games are trying to go wide instead of deep, and how I don't need games to do everything, I just need them to
okay, wide instead of deep.
do a handful of things really fucking well. That idea clicked for me because I saw people complaining about Mafia Old Country and how the game didn't have swimming. Swimming, a mechanic that would add nothing to the game's experience. And when I saw that,
that's stupid. If you try to add to a mechanic to the game, the example swimming, and it changes nothing of the game, it doesn't add to the experience. and there's never a requirement to swim, or like there's like nothing like under the water that requires you to swim, why would you complain about that? Why would you need that? You don't need that. That just takes up more space and processing power, right? That's so unnecessary.
I started thinking about what a single mechanic like that will do to the design process of a game, because it's never just swimming. The moment that you add it, you have to justify it. Now there's a mission where you fall into the water. Now stealth sections are built around it. Maps and navigation are reshaped for it. Even the game's story is going to bend or break just to be able to acknowledge it. And
yeah, if there's like barely any parts with water and whatnot where you would have to swim in it, you would have to redesign entire levels for the mechanic as well. That's a great point. Yeah, again, it's just like if it they don't need it. I think honestly that's just a person trying to find somebody to complain about.
And what looks like a simple omission to players, in reality, is the start of a slippery slope that starts pulling the entire design away from where it was meant to be. And that's where bloat comes in, a word that I use all the time, because it doesn't just describe one thing, it describes everything. These companies, their budgets, their production pipelines, and most of all, the games themselves. AAA has stretched so far, so broad, that it's lost touch with its original concepts. Instead of doubling down on what made these games powerful in the first place, they have expanded sideways until the core experience has been drowned out.
Yeah.
The clearest example, and honestly the lowest hanging piece of fruit here, is Assassin's Creed. The first game was
so true.
limited in scope. One city, one clear design, tactical stealth, brutal combat, and a gripping story. That's it.
This trailer, this looks so cool.
It worked. It worked so well that it turned Ubisoft into a household name. But as the series went on, that formula started to slip away. Rather than refining the mechanics that carried it, the games ballooned. Yes, there were some high points. I think that Black Flag ship mechanics are really great. But outside of that, every edition pulled away further and further from what the series was supposed to be.
I never really played any of the like early Assassin's Creeds and whatnot, but I do hear a lot of people saying like how they really enjoyed like Black Flag and whatnot. And then they transitioned to open world, and then with each Assassin's Creed, I think the first open world one was when they were in Egypt, right? I forgot what that one was called. But every Assassin's Creed after that was again open world, and they kept just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's just I do enjoy me like a giant open world, right? But the hard part about that is you have to fill it with enough things, right? Skyrim is a clear example of this. Skyrim is filled with a lot of things, a lot of dungeons, a lot of locations to go and explore. If you have like a quest that requires you to go from point A all the way over to point B across the map, you're guaranteed to find probably at least 5 different things along the way that'll just get you sidetracked and distracted. But Starfield, again, a good example of this. There's just point A to point B. There's nothing in between. So that's why I don't even consider Starfield an open world. You could consider it if you want, but it's just boring. It's not filled with things, or at least not enough of it. And then like the dungeons were just like copied and pasted so many times, and it just got boring.
I mean, Assassin's Creed today isn't even the same series. It's an open world RPG packed with mounts, gathering, crafting, base building, loot mechanics, and layered RPG progression. Ubisoft has gone so wide with the experience that every system now has to justify its own existence, which means that they're forced into the core loop, whether you like it or not. You want to advance the story? Too bad. Killing enemies and completing missions is not enough anymore. You've got to climb lookout points. You got to run obstacle courses. You got to scavenge for hidden collectibles just to be able to unlock skill points, because otherwise you'll hit a progression gate that's going to block you from continuing the main narrative. And the worst part is, if the game still nailed its fundamentals, maybe all that padding wouldn't be so bad, but it doesn't. The narrative is a shadow of what it once used to be. Voice acting feels completely phoned in. Stealth is irrelevant.
Dude, I saw some of the clips for some of the voice acting in Assassin's Creed Shadows. Dude, it's bad. It's so bad, man. It feels, there's no emotion. It feels fake. It just feels like you're reading the lines out in a monotone voice like this. There's nothing. Oh, it's so terrible. And then yeah, I saw some clips of the stuff like you go up to enemy base, you hit one guy and aggro everybody, and then they just went prone onto the ground. Not even in tall grass. They just went prone onto the ground, and then everybody was like, "Oh, where'd she go? What? Okay, well, I guess it just must have been the wind. Back to your positions, everybody. Back to your posts."
Of it now, if you just spec your character into a walking tank, and combat is simpler and duller than most mobile games. All of these are symptoms of resources being siphoned away from the core experience and poured into side systems that demand that you use them. On paper, this game has
that climbing doesn't even look good. It literally just looks like she's flying up
into side systems that demand that you use them.
Oh my goodness! It just looks like she's flying up. Like you there's no way you'd have the strength to lunge. In a game that's supposed to be like in quote unquote like realism, you're not supposed to be like superhuman or anything. It generally just feels like you shouldn't be able to like hoik yourself up that high.
Them. On paper, this game has a lot to do, but when you're forced to do all of it just to continue the narrative, that's not enriching the experience, it's dragging it down. It's not engaging the player, it's exhausting them.
Oh yeah, that's actually incredibly true. So something for like Skyrim, there's so much stuff to do in Skyrim, so many skill trees to do in Skyrim, but you're not required to do it all. You don't even need to touch the base. You don't even need to touch the main story to have a good time in Skyrim. You really don't. All the side quests and whatnot from the different factions that you could do are amazing, and not once are any of the side quests required to do the main story.
And it isn't just Assassin's Creed, it's become the template for AAA as a whole. Look at Starfield. Bethesda crammed everything into that game. Gathering, crafting, cooking, base building, outposts, shipbuilding. They even stretched the scale of space itself, trying to make it feel real, ambitious,
and it's so
for
bland.
Sure. But by spreading themselves across so many systems, the quality of the game collapsed. The game became a mess of loading screens, character building that once defined Bethesda felt completely flat, gunplay was stiff, AI was brain dead, and the story was the most generic thing that I'd ever played in my life.
It's so bland.
All of the planets were lifeless. Shipbuilding was a cool idea, but what is the point of building a ship when flying a ship feels meaningless?
No, he's right about that. Like the shipbuilding in of itself, the customization, great, awesome. Like all the modular pieces and able to build your own custom ship, that sounds amazing. But you can only fly it in a box, and you can't even fly the ship when you're at a planet. Like that's stupid. Like No Man's Sky, you can fly your ship. You don't even need to fly your ship in space. You can fly your ship around the planet and whatnot. You can't do that in Starfield. You can only fly it in space, and even then, it's just a box. You have to go through another loading screen if you want to travel to another planet.
There are endless examples of this, but I think it boils down to two things. Games going too wide in scope and games that are just going too wide in the audience that they're chasing. Publishers want to inflate playtime to justify their budget and their price tag while also convincing themselves that more features will pull in bigger crowds. Take Doom the Dark Ages as an example. I am only bringing this up because there is one guy in my comment section that will not shut up and stop defending the game because he doesn't like my opinion on it. But it is the perfect example. They padded the game out to have a longer narrative, not because fans wanted it, but because they thought it might broaden its appeal. That's also why they threw in shallow gimmicks like a 2-click giant robot fight or a dragon flying minigame. Hell, it's the reason why they swapped out Too Young to Die for the sanitized version of Aspiring Slayer difficulty. None of it is about serving the core audience. It is about the hypothetical audience that they've created in their heads and how they're going to get them.
I do enjoy the fact that there's more story in Doom Eternal because I like the story of Doom Eternal. It's great. It's fun. But I never played Doom Eternal, by the way. If this is true and how they just like made it a couple clicks, and again, like they got rid of glory kills. So how could you get rid of glory kills? Glory kills are amazing. They're so much fun. But you watered it down to just be a tackle and they fall apart. That's dumb. That's stupid. Like, why? Why would you do that?
And all of this just makes these games feel like bland, tasteless slop. The bigger they get, the less substance is there. These stories are starting to feel like filler. The gameplay is getting stale, and the fundamentals are being ignored. Think about where we're at right now. A game shipping with stable frame rates.
I'm not gonna lie. You can hit those back. I didn't know you can hit those back at all there. That's good then. Who's DMing me? for 2. Yeah, maybe. Parents. Sorry, I'm messaging somebody. Okay, there we go. I had the DMs already.
Being ignored. Think about where we're at right now. A game shipping with stable frame rates is treated like a selling point. That's
You know what? That's actually a very solid point. If stable frame rates, not forget 144 at this, forget like 120 FPS or 144 FPS, 60 FPS. Why are we struggling so hard for a lot of these AAA games just to hit 60 FPS? We should be well beyond this by now. Like we should have it. We should have had it figured out, and yet we're literally going backwards.
That's how far things have gotten. Studios are spreading themselves so thin that optimization isn't even on the table anymore.
Yeah.
This is what's tanking their credibility with players. And people don't understand just how deep this damage goes, because it's not just their games getting worse. It's not just their reputations collapsing. Going wide also balloons their costs. Their teams swell, their budgets explode, and suddenly you have a game that would have cost you $150 million that's now costing you 2 to 3 times that.
Yeah.
Then inevitably, when that game underperforms, the losses hit them even harder. And instead of scaling back, they double down.
More.
They convince themselves that the answer is going even wider, reaching even more people, and then the cycle repeats, dragging them further and further into the hole.
They unironically think pouring more money into it would solve the problem, which theoretically, logically, it should work. You know, putting in more money, you can get something better quality, but it keeps being less.
Now, I don't want this all to sound like pure doom and gloom. I do like video games, by the way. Some AAA games do get it right. Take Final Fantasy VII Remake, the sequel to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. They added a lot. Huge open world areas to explore, piles of side content. The Golden Saucer was packed with mini games and side stories, but the difference is the core gameplay actually improved. The narrative was stronger, the RPG mechanics were deeper, and the combat felt way sharper. Aerial combos actually clicked better, team attacks were really cool, and they added some visual flair. Boss fights had a lot more variety, and the overall gameplay just felt better.
There's also Baldur's Gate 3. Baldur's Gate 3 is also another example of that with Larian Studios, because like those guys definitely like reached deep, as he says, and put so much passion into it. And honestly, I haven't finished the campaign. I should. I've been playing the campaign with Scully. I haven't touched that in a minute. Probably see if she want to continue it.
It proved that you can expand the game without losing sight of why people like it. That said, I still think that there's a ceiling, because even when it works, these games are getting enormous. The average playtime is now creeping past 40 hours on a game, and people do not have that kind of time. With work, family, and everything else, finishing a single game can stretch into weeks or even months in some cases, by which point 3 more massive releases are already out. Even when the quality is there, the sheer size becomes a barrier to entry.
That's also true. The amount of games that are coming out in the little time everybody has. That's yeah. No, I definitely have a huge game backlog, and me personally, I got a huge game backlog, and I don't have the time.
And that's where we're at right now. AAA keeps chasing breadth instead of depth, more systems, more hours, more everything. Yet the core experience keeps getting diluted along the way. Even in the rare cases where expansion works, like Rebirth, the sheer size becomes its own problem. Bigger doesn't always mean better, and in fact, more times than not, it just means emptier. I don't know about you guys, but when I see a month that's just stacked with AAA games, I almost hope that some of them are bad so I don't have to play them. Because I already know 2 things right off the get. I don't want to spend that much money, and I don't have that kind of time.
Kitty! Okay, I got distracted.
On
Thank
top
you.
of that, I just don't really feel like playing a game that makes me feel like I need to take a nap.
Yeah.
On the topic of games that do it right, Elden Ring. Fantastic game.
Amazing.
All-time favorite.
Love it.
I will never play it again. I really do not see myself ever playing Elden Ring ever again. They nailed the Dark Souls theme on a massive scale. The narrative was fantastic. The combat was great. The boss fights were absolutely
The hardest DLC I've ever fucking played in my entire life, and I can't love it any more than I already do. I love it so much, man. Good DLC.
epic. But goddamn, man, that's a lot of video game.
That is definitely a lot of video
Once
game.
you had the DLC on top of it, there's no way I could beat that game again. No, I don't have the time. I don't have the hours for that. Maybe it's age. Maybe it's burnout. I'm just getting too old. I guess that's what it is. But it feels like in a lot of cases with a lot of these games that I loved, the reasons I played them just aren't there anymore. When I played Assassin's Creed Shadows, I swear, Scout's Honor, is that how you do it? Scout. I swear, I tried to give that game a shot. I really did. I tried to give it a fair shot. But the minute that it hit me with a level gate of level 15 for me to be able to, continue on the story,
Jeez.
I just gave up. The game was just not good enough for me to be able to just
Gotta be a certain level just to continue the story. That's kind of like what should I call it? Assassin's Creed Odyssey. That one, there was no level gate. All the enemies just scaled with you. That's pretty much a
justify another 20 hours of busy work. I'm not going to do it. And that's exactly why there is such a wide contrast between indie and AAA right now, because they are the masters of pacing. They are the masters of simplicity. And they know how to make small games feel big and big games feel manageable. And that's a really difficult thing to do, but these guys make it look easy. I have never been exhausted by playing an indie game, and I feel like I could play 20 of them at a time if I wanted to. And I never felt like my time was wasted. And the reason for that is they just take a couple of things and they do them perfectly.
Yeah, they do them
Indie
well.
games
They
by
do it
design
awesome.
can't afford to go wide. They don't have the teams. They don't have the budgets, and more times than not, these guys don't even have the experience to try to make a game that has a lot of systems or is too big. But that limitation is working in their favor. Take Witchfire. That's actually the game that inspired this video.
Witchfire.
I've been hooked on it. It's an FPS.
I've seen this actually. I have it on my wish list. I've been looking at it. I've been kind of wanting to play. I'm not gonna lie. This is an indie game. Then it might actually be pretty damn good.
Roguelike with leveling persistence like Dark Souls and the enemy mechanics to match, but it never strays beyond that. No cutscenes, no dialogue, no exposition, no side modes. You're just dropped onto an island. You kill monsters, you hunt for secrets, and you fight bosses. That's it. That's the entire game. And because it's being made by a team of less than 20 people, there isn't enough time or money for them to try to chase anything else. That forced focus that they have makes every single part of this game shine brighter than most FPS games on the market.
This is kind of cool. I'm not gonna lie.
The gunplay is some of the best that I've felt since the original Halo series. If I had to put it into words, it feels like what Destiny would be like if that was actually a game that was worth playing, but the movement is fluid. Every single weapon feels distinct, and each one of them comes with their own
ashamed of what
unique
Destiny's
quirks
become.
where it completely changes the way that you play the game or how you build your character. There's an assault rifle that'll link all the enemies together so your damage will ricochet shots between them. There's a shotgun that'll stack power with every single consecutive hit.
Oh,
There's
that's
a
cool.
rifle with a charge shot that rewards your timing, and the more that you use these weapons, the more their abilities evolve, and sometimes they'll gain entirely new mechanics altogether.
Oh, that's pretty cool,
But because
actually.
weapons are the main focus in Witchfire, everything else is built to serve them. Killing enemies is just going to unlock more weapon abilities. Experience points are going to let you level your character to fit your favorite loadout. Boss fights are tuned to try to push you to diversify your arsenal. Each run is going to give you currency to be able to buy new weapons and upgrades. Even the roguelike modifiers are all about enhancing the way that your guns play. Everything is extending from that core, and it's all tied back to just one mechanic. And because of that, the quality feels higher and tighter across the board. No wasted time, no wasted effort. Every action feeds back into the gunplay, and that constant feedback, that constant sense of progression keeps you hooked. And once I noticed this,
honestly, Dead Cells, bro. I love Dead Cells so much. No, that actually looks like a pretty decent game. I actually want to give it a shot even more now. Oh, but oh boy, Dead Cells. I love to play Dead Cells. I haven't gotten to I haven't gotten to like the boss cell what should we call it? Cell 5 difficulty, but I like Dead Cells. It's good. A good game.
Looking back at all the other indie games that I've been playing, and it's the same design philosophy that just keeps showing up again and again. Take Shroom and Gloom. You guys obviously really like that one. On the surface, it's just a standard deck builder, but its focus is on its aesthetics. It's trippy, it's hypnotic, and it's instantly memorable. The gameplay loop itself is simple, but the atmosphere is what makes it impossible to stop playing. Then on the flip side, you got a game like Balatro. Aesthetics are minimal in that game, almost bare bones, but the focus is entirely on the deck.
I want to play Balatro as well. There's a lot of indie games I've been wanting to play. Dang, I'm thinking about this now. He's really putting it in my mind. Indie games are actually just better.
Building itself, every card, every combo, and every move. Two games, the same genre, completely different strengths, both thriving because they know exactly what they're about and what they're not trying to be. Hollow Knight, one of the most celebrated indie games of all time, has incredibly simple Metroidvania combat, but it is refined to a razor's edge, responsive, precise, and satisfying. The team has poured all the rest of their energy into the hand-drawn art aesthetic and the music of the game, creating an atmosphere that is so immersive that the simplicity of its mechanics actually become a strength because it's
I love Hollow Knight music so much, actually. I listen to it when I'm driving sometimes. It's nice.
Not distracting you from living in that world. Then there's Schedule 1, which took over the internet earlier this year. It didn't lean on narrative, fidelity, or world building. All it did was just focus on production, meme game, and it's amazing. Scalability, and crafting. Systems that let the player generate an endless variety of effects out of a very narrow concept. I could list examples all day, but the pattern here is clear. The most successful indie games, the ones that are now rivaling some of the biggest names in the industry, do not spread themselves thin. They pick one or two things, they refine those endlessly, and that's why they shine. Players come to them for the core experience. That experience delivers, and the end result is both our time and our money feeling respected. This all kind of reminds me of that scene from Hunter x Hunter where Netero is training in the mountains, and to honor the martial arts, he prays and throws 10,000 punches a day for 4 years straight. At the beginning, it takes him 18 hours, but by the end, he can do it in under 1. That's what these indie developers are doing right now. They're not dabbling in dozens of systems.
They're doing the One Punch Man workout. 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats, and a 10K run every day.
They're honing a single sword, and that's the only sword that they have, and they're honing it until they've mastered it completely. I think that there's a direct tie between how focused indie games are around their core mechanics and how rewarding they feel to play. When everything revolves around one central loop, every single action is contributing to progress, and you actually feel like you're moving forward. That constant reinforcement is so satisfying in a way that we just don't see that in AAA games anymore. I mean, think about a game like Diablo 4. That game is massive, but it feels shallow as all hell. The difficulty scales with your level, so you never actually feel stronger. You're not conquering anything in that game. You're just jogging on a treadmill.
Oh, okay, well, that sucks. Like, the whole point of that game is to be, like, OP and destroy waves of enemies and just, like, one button click, like how Path of Exile does it, you know? That's I say they just scale with you. No
matter how much time you sink in, the game is going to rob you.
I mean, yeah, obviously make it harder so you can have a bit of a challenge, but if they scale with you like that, then there's no power fantasy aspect.
Of that sense of progression, and without progression, what is the point? That's why so many people have bounced off that game. That's why it's been circling the drain ever since it launched. Players were not being rewarded for their time. They just felt like they were being managed by a system. And this is not a problem that's unique to Diablo. It's everywhere in AAA games. These games are so bloated with mechanics and so obsessed with long-term engagement that they flattened out the very things that made their games enjoyable. Growth, reward, progression, everything. It's all gone. Instead of just letting you feel like you're actually building mastery or that you're getting better at a game, they just dilute it with endless side content, artificial gates, and time sinks. You end up feeling like you're just going through the motions without ever feeling like you actually accomplished anything. Hell, to be honest with you, in a lot of cases, it feels like you're just walking away from a game, not even feeling like you played one.
Yeah.
Indie games just don't have that problem because they can't afford to have that problem. With limited resources, they have to make sure that every single action counts. Progression is not stretched across 10 systems. It's embedded directly into the heart of the game. When you get better at Celeste, you feel it in your fingertips. When your deck clicks in Slay the Spire, it's not just ticking off nodes on a skill tree. You are watching an entire system bend around all of the choices that you made. These games are built to reward you constantly, not with filler or cosmetics, but with an actual feeling, a genuine feeling of accomplishment. That's why players are gravitating towards these games. They respect your time. They don't waste it with pointless padding or grinding. Instead, they just try to make sure that every single minute feels meaningful. And that's something that AAA is almost completely lost sight of. It feels like a lot of AAA games today are more focused on just activating neurons than actually being an enjoyable game or, God forbid, a refreshing experience.
Refreshing experience. Something new and not relying on nostalgia. Blech. Terrible. Couldn't even bear the thought of it.
the course of the last 10 years has grown to the point where so many of these games feel like they just need to have stuff to do. That's all it is, rather than actually having anything meaningful to do. More and more year over year, even with some of the best games in AAA, I'm not finishing these games saying, wow, that was incredible, or feeling sad that it's over. More or less, I'm just happy that I made it to the finish line and didn't waste $70. And I think that's the real difference. AAA keeps going wide and stretching itself thin, while indie games go deep, and in doing so, they become the most rewarding part about gaming today.
Focusing on one thing,
I only came across this idea because of the fact that I was flipping through my library looking for games that I wanted to play. I landed on a couple of indie games.
Ew, view bot. Gross. Delete. Hate the view bots.
Games that I wanted to cycle through. And then somebody let me know, hey, by the way, we have Metal Gear coming out, and Battlefield, and Borderlands, and Lost Soulside, and a couple of other games. And I was just like, I don't want to.
But Balatro.
I don't know if I want to. We have so many games that are coming out in the next coming weeks and coming months. And while I love content, I don't know if I can play them all. Sorry, man. It just feels like AAA games require too much energy to play anymore, and it shouldn't feel that way. It's such a weird thing for me to say, but that's honestly the way that I feel. I had a bunch of people that asked me to play Mafia Old Country, and I was just like, I don't want to.
But Balatro.
It's as simple as that. I don't want to. I've played a lot of really great AAA games, but they just make me feel worn out. And in a lot of cases, when I play an indie game, I feel refreshed. I feel entertained. I feel like I got something out of the experience. Like I learned something, or I experienced something new, or I don't know. I just feel rewarded for playing their games, and I just don't get that with a lot of AAA games anymore. I don't really know how to put it better into words than what I did with this video, but hopefully it actually worked. I do think that walking away from the core aspects of your game is the core issue here, because
like what made your game special?
The way that a lot of these games have to be able to,
like, I can get wanting to do something just like a little bit different to try to keep things new and fresh, but if you have, again, glory kills from Doom, people really like glory kills, and you tuck it out. Why did you do that? You didn't have to do that. Please put them back in. Come on.
To stretch out their gameplay as long as they could. You need those spikes in there. I need those ups and downs. I need to feel like a god, and then I need to get knocked down a couple of pegs and then climb my way back up. That's what makes these games feel so good, because you feel like you're actually overcoming an obstacle rather than the game itself being the obstacle. And I know it sounds like a meme, but they don't make them like they used to, and honestly, they just don't anymore.
They don't
I think that's
anymore.
Why indie has been doing so well recently. It's because these guys are so much closer to the origins of where game design starts, so they're so much closer to the core mechanics, and that's why people are starting to gravitate towards.
It's because the indie studios used to be the devs of these big AAA games, Again, Expedition 33, they're all ex-Ubisoft devs. They left the company and made their own game studio and made Expedition 33 probably one of the best JRPGs that's out there right now. So, what does that got to say?
Towards them. This is just one reason out of 100, but I think it's the most important reason of all. I really do. And it goes back to this idea that I had before where I was talking about how more of these publishers need to just let their guys make all kinds of different games. Make smaller games. Make games that don't cost you $300 million.
Hi-Fi Rush.
Games that don't have everybody's lives and their jobs riding on the line of its success. Make some games that are fun because the developers are having fun making them.
Yeah.
Those are the kind of games that I want to play.
And then there's also the fact that make a game that you yourself would play. Like, the part of the reason why From Software is so successful with their games is because Miyazaki is making a game that he himself would want to play. Like, that's like just straight up. He's just making a game that he would play. That's why like Dark Souls is so good. That's why Elden Ring is so good. That's why Bloodborne's fucking awesome. Port to PC, I beg of you. But yeah, it's just like, hey, this is a game that the devs themselves would play. That's also why Warframe's pretty good, because the devs themselves, they play Warframe a lot. I think they do weekly streams on there, and so that's the game's fun because they play it.
Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did enjoy the video.
Okay, yep, no, that was the end. Yeah, but no, yeah, just devs, please make a game that you'd want to play. Anyway, support that video. This is great. It's good. All right, and that was the video by Legendary Drops. He brought up a lot of good points and whatnot, of you know, useless game mechanics, a bunch of games that are just overbloated with microtransactions. There's just so much to point out on what AAA. Oh, excuse me. So much to point out on what AAA is just falling from grace. You know, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. But yeah, once more, if you enjoyed this video, please do leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe if you haven't already, and click that bell notification. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Okay, bye bye.